Hey guys, I'm home here now. And if you're like me, you always have rice in the fridge. All my Asian and Latino brothers and sisters know that is normal. We always have rice available. So today, we're gonna make some chicken fried rice. The restaurants, they have the woks, they have the big fires, so they can get that heat and that smoke. Unfortunately, most of us don't have that at home. So I'm gonna teach you how to do a restaurant style fried rice at home using your gas burner or electric burner. And we're gonna keep the flame or the electricity nice and high and tight and keep the pan hot. We're gonna make it taste good. And that's it, let's go. We are gonna start by making the marinade for the Char Siu Pork, which is gonna go on top of the fried rice at the end. Start by adding 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, half a teaspoon of allspice, a half a teaspoon of white pepper, and a pinch of salt. Now the wet ingredients. Half a cup of soy sauce, half a cup of rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce or oyster sauce, whatever you want, and 1 teaspoon of red food coloring. The food coloring is going to give it the traditional deep reddish pink color that we want, and make sure you mix this well. Add the pork tenderloin to the bowl and coat it with the marinade. Let that pork marinate in the fridge for at least 30 minutes, or you can marinate this overnight and that will give it more color and more flavor. Once it's marinated, add some water to the bottom of a foil-lined baking sheet with a rack. This makes cleanup a lot easier, and that water keeps the sugar from burning. Place the tenderloin on the rack, coat it with more of that marinade, and place it in the oven for 15 minutes, or when the thermometer reads an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Save the leftover marinade to coat the pork every 15 minutes or so. Now we're going to prep the aromatics for the fried rice. Grab a couple of green onions and cut off the root. Now just slice the white part off and dice it in small pieces. Dice a clove of garlic, very small as well, and then take a nub of ginger and peel it with a spoon. It's a lot easier, and you can dice that small as well. Do this carefully, don't cut yourself, and when you're done, place them all in one bowl and set aside. Now, grab some green onions and with the knife, slice on a bias. These onions are going to go in the fried rice at the very end, so place these in a separate bowl and save them for later. Now we prep the pollo. Make sure you cut these into small pieces. I like to use thighs because they are juicier, but feel free to use chicken breast or beef, all good. I'm using about 4 chicken thighs for the recipe, but for 2 servings you only need 2 thighs. We're going to add a tablespoon of soy sauce, a teaspoon of sesame oil, a teaspoon of white pepper, and a pinch of salt because you gotta season your shit, and crack 1 egg into it. Mix that around and place it to marinate in the fridge. The egg is going to coat the chicken and give it a nice texture once it's fried. Let's check on that pork. Flip it and baste it every 15 minutes or so. This is going to intensify the color, the flavor, and it will keep it from drying up. Once the pork is cooked and the inside reads 145 degrees Fahrenheit, you can let it rest for about 5 minutes so that the juices don't run. The prepping is done. Let's get to the fried rice. Crack 2 eggs into a bowl, sprinkle some salt, and beat them into oblivion. Make sure there are no visible egg whites in the bowl. Once that's done, add some oil to a nonstick pan on high heat. Once it's hot, add your eggs and move them around and make sure you don't overcook them. This is a quick process, so don't look away. Once they are done, set them aside and we'll add them to the rice at the end. In the same pan on high heat with a little more oil, add a half a cup of chicken, that way we don't overcrowd the pan. Let that cook for about 4 minutes, and all those juices from the pollo and seasoning are going to add great color and flavor to the rice. Let this cook, and the more fat that comes out, the better. It's all flavor. Once the chicken is done, remove it, but do not remove all of the runoff juices from the pan. Add some oil and let that get really hot. Add a tablespoon of the ginger, garlic, and green onion mix that we made earlier, and don't let this get too much color. We just want to release some of the flavor. As soon as it's fragrant, add 2 cups of cold rice. Make sure you have cold rice from the night before. It keeps the rice from getting mushy, and each grain of rice will have the right color and flavor we want. That's the secret for restaurant-style rice. Season it with salt and white pepper, and after a minute the rice should start to crackle and sizzle. That is a good sign. Mix and toss. This is warming and toasting the rice at the same time. After a minute of that, make a hole in the middle of the pan and add the butter, and it'll melt quickly. As soon as it melts, add about a tablespoon of soy sauce in the middle. Let it bubble for a second and then toss. We do this so the soy sauce mixes with the butter and creates a creamy coating with the fat, and that will stick to the rice grains much better. You should see the rice start changing color as soon as you start tossing. Add the egg and chicken into the pan and toss. After a few batches of these, you'll have a nice arm workout. Lastly, add the green onion and toss one last time. Slice a few pieces of pork and a taste test, of course. Slice this as thin or as thick as you want and add that on top of the fried rice. When I eat it, I just put it in a bowl and garnish with green onions and sesame seeds. And of course, if you want to plate it nicely for your friends, you can put it like this and add some green onions on top. Just decorate it, And now we taste test. This dish, of course, has the Bobby stamp of approval.